I guess those guys believe in that guns for everyone deal, huh?
Right.
That's a fuzzy channel list. A couple of them right there. A couple of geniuses. It's 6:39. Glad you're with us on this Business Tuesday. We have business and law, especially at 8 o'clock. We start talking about those new Affordable Care Act regulations, and you ain't going to believe this. Okay, and I hope you have good health insurance, because you hear the show at 8 o'clock, you're probably going to have hypertension before it's all over with. John Hulsey is our financial analyst, and Jason Doyle, our business and energy analyst, here every Wednesday. And today, John Hulsey is coaching me on retirement strategies every week. But the Alternative Board, this is a new one on me. Introduce our guest.
It is new. It was new to me not too long ago. But this morning we have Art Miller with us, who is the president of the Alternative Board, Oklahoma City. Art has a very diverse financial background. He's the founder of Miller Business Consulting, and he's a leading consultant here in the city. Works with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. Good morning, Mr. Miller.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
I'm outstanding. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful.
Why don't you tell our listeners what the Alternative Board is?
Well, peer advisory boards in general are groups of like-minded individuals with similar business interests, and they get together and help each other get better. In the case of the Alternative Board, we form groups of business owners, CEOs, presidents, or managing partners, and they work on business challenges. It could be an opportunity or it could be a problem. Typically, this is a group of 6 to 10 business owners that are put in a peer board. It's important to note they're all non-competing businesses. Also, there are no major customers or suppliers in the room, and they typically represent different skill sets. We want to make sure that each business owner feels very comfortable discussing whatever problems and challenges they have.
So how does this actually work? How does it function? How does this board function?
Well, we meet once a month for a half a day. We use a think tank type of approach, and everybody gets real world advice from people who have typically been there and done that. There's usually somebody in the room that has dealt with a particular problem or challenge before. And so I liken the process to a learning curve accelerator. You get about 70% of the way down the learning curve through the meetings, and then you have to adapt the solution to your specific situation.
So is this something like maybe a tip board?
This is not a tip club, John, although I would tell you that everybody ends up doing business with each other because a great deal of trust is built through the process. We are not a standard board where there are fees arranged and that sort of thing, but everybody is interested in making sure that their fellow board members are successful.
So basically, they're acting as a board of directors for each other.
Correct. They're unpaid, but they are acting in that way. And that's the kind of value that business owners get out of the process. They're also held accountable for implementing solutions. The real question that a lot of business owners have to ask themselves is, how do we get held accountable in the typical setting without this kind of a mechanism?
Well, I can see how this can function very, very well, because if you're a small or a medium-sized business owner, who do you go to when you have a problem? You don't have that board of directors to help you. I can understand how the Alternative Board can really be a backdrop and an advisory board to help you in your business.
That's absolutely right, John. It's interesting because what we have found is that the business owners that join the Alternative Board stay for many, many years. Average life on a board is 4 to 5 years, and that's nationwide, not just in Oklahoma City. So those business owners are getting value out of the process on a very much ongoing basis. You'd be surprised at the number of people in the peer boards who say, I hadn't thought about that particular issue that John brought up at the last meeting, but I need to address it as well.
One other thing there, Art, is how what type of a owner, what kind of a personality does it take to come into this board? Who's your typical member of your board?
Well, typically this is a small to medium-sized business. They're going to have somewhere between 5 and say 100 employees. Revenue size for our boards are typically $500,000 to we have some board members as large as $25-30 million a year in revenue. But the mindset is the most important thing for this board to really work. Someone has to be open to learning and to getting better. That's the most important thing. And they also have to be open to helping their fellow board members.
6:44, take a quick break. Come back. We're going to learn more about the alternative board. John Hulsey's involved in it.
I am.
Then it's a good deal. More from Jason Doyle coming up at 7 a.m. We're going to learn about Leadership Oklahoma, a couple of their folks, and a couple of the great businesses going on in this town. And as we said at 8 o'clock, I'm sort of looking forward to it / not looking forward to it for business owners. These Affordable Care Act regulations. You're going to open the bar at 9 is what's going to happen after that one. It's Mitchell in the Morning on KOKC. It's 6:49. It's Business Wednesday. Glad you're with us. Smart people in the room, including John Hulsey. And we're learning about the alternative board. Tell us about, Art, what this means in terms of our audience. How does it apply to everyday lives, especially business owners?
Well, business owners are always trying to get better. And this is a mechanism that I've found to be very useful and effective in allowing business owners to do that. It is amazing how many business owners have what I would call blind spots. So they don't even know some of the things that they don't know. And the alternative board helps with those kinds of issues. They are, again, have to have an attitude of wanting to get better, but this is a great mechanism for allowing business owners to do that and to be successful. The survey data that we get from our national organization shows that people that are owners in the alternative board are being more successful than their peers across the country.
So, Art, how does this actually function? You have a meeting, there's coaching. Tell us about all that.
Okay. The meeting content is primarily targeted at the issues and challenges that board members have. And again, it's a once a month topical situation. And typically we have 20 to 30 minutes that we spend on each of those issues for each business owner. They describe the situation initially. There are clarifying questions asked by their fellow board members, and then they get advice. In between those meetings, I do coaching one-on-one with each of those business owners. So the business owner sets the agenda for those coaching sessions. They typically set a strategic objective or goal, and I help them meet that goal. I use a triadic coaching model. This model assumes there are actually 3 people in the room during coaching sessions. One's the business owner, 2 is me, the coach, and the 3rd is the business objective.
So why don't you tell us what your background and your qualifications to lead these business owners through these processes?
Sure, be happy to do that, John. The first thing that I think is important is a pretty broad general business experience. The second is education, and the third is application of the education. So I am also a business owner. I own parts of several small businesses. One of them is a pipe yard out in El Reno. So when you guys were talking about what's going on in the oil industry, this is of great concern to me. Our level of production is down about 50 to 60%. So obviously, I have the same concerns that many people in the energy industry have, and that's why I'm a little bit more qualified, perhaps, to deal with those things than some other people. My background, though, John, is I'm a financial guy by trade. I have an MBA from the University of Virginia, the Darden School. I have a CPA certificate. I have a certification in information systems auditing. I have a pretty good broad educational background, and I have served in multiple roles across the C-suite, primarily CFO roles, and I do part-time and temporary CFO assignments as well. So those are the kind of credentials that help me help other business owners be successful.
Well, obviously, you've seen a lot in all of those different roles that you've played as a CFO, and you bring that to the table with the alternative board and all the different small businessmen in there. To me, that is one of the real strengths of the board is your background and your knowledge and how you guide everyone in that meeting.
Again, my goal, John, is to help other people be successful. And I get a kick out of seeing some of our tab board members do things they never thought they could do before and be wonderfully successful.
It's 6:54. Mitchell in the morning time. We're learning about the thing about learning about business every Wednesday is that you forget sometimes the old baseball movie Bull Durham about the fundamentals. Art, when you look at what business doesn't do, and we get that information from guys like Jason Doyle over at OK Energy today. What fundamentals is business lacking in this market, which, John, we talk about every week, is there's so much flux and misunderstanding and people trying to read the tea leaves. We have government officials in Oklahoma and nationally telling us how good things are, which is a load of crap, okay? I mean, that's denial. I mean, there's right after the Chesapeake layoffs, there were public officials talking about how things strong. No, it's not. But Jason comes in with a little dose of good news this morning, right, Jason?
Right. With Unit Corporation is a good example. It's almost, I don't want to say the opposite of Chesapeake, because Chesapeake is taking measures to be able to make its financial sheets, balance sheets work out a little bit better and to secure themselves as a future ongoing company. Whereas Unit Corporation came into this ordeal that they were pretty already lean and mean and tight, and they've gained efficiencies. That's something else that's the big overarching thing with the energy companies, especially here in Oklahoma. They're learning how to pull that oil and gas out of the ground a lot cheaper than what they did just a year or 2 years ago. So the technology is changing. There even there was a kind of an off the wall type report that came out earlier this week about proppant. And proppant in terms of oil and gas is the some of the kind of sand and some of the chemical they use in fracking fluids when they're going to go get the oil. What's happening is they're finding that refracking wells is a very efficient way to not have to drill a new hole, which is expensive, and go back in there and grab the oil and gas that we left behind. They're finding some success there, and they're also finding, and the proppant, like I said, here in Oklahoma, we're expected to see that market go up over the next 18 months. They're going to see demand for more of this refracking type material. So there's a little efficiency starting to work into the system that's working to the advantage of U.S. shale versus the other oil producers around the world.
So, Art, any recommendations in this market for business owners in terms of retrenching, getting back to fundamentals?
Sure. It's interesting because, as you noted, there's a bunch of layoffs. One of the biggest issues and challenges that all small business owners have is hiring good people. And fundamentally, it boils down to that is your competitive advantage, and I don't care what business you're in. So now is a great time for business owners to be high grading their employees. They can hire a lot of very high quality people that have just been laid off. Now, obviously, if you're in the oil and gas industry, you may not have that need, but all kinds of other businesses do have that need and ought to take this opportunity and this downturn from the oil and gas industry to take advantage.
What else would you like to share with the business owners we've got listening out there right now that you think they need to hear from the Alternative Board?
Well, part of the process that the Alternative Board uses is the network. We have a network of 200 to 300 facilitators and franchisees across the world. It's mostly the English-speaking world, but it's across the world. And we have access to all of those folks. Every one of those people, just like me, has some sort of expertise. Most of them are consultants, but we can find expertise in almost any area imaginable that could help a business owner with a particular problem or situation. The other thing is that network includes all the business owners that are members of the Alternative Board or TAB. We can throw out on the internet questions or comments or concerns and get back answers from all of those folks. That's about 3,000 business owners. The power of that network is just unbelievable. The other thing that the Alternative Board has done is they've developed some tools that are very useful to small business owners. So they have a tool called Strategic Business Leadership, which is a planning tool, and it acts as a online planning process. The first part is your personal vision, where you want to go, and the second part is the business, what will take you there.
Art, thanks a million for coming in. How do we reach you? How do we get in contact?
John, there's a couple ways you can do that.
Got about 20 seconds, Art.
The first is you can go on my website, which is www.tab-okcnorth.com, or you can call me at 405-202-0967.